manipulating me. That's one of the binary that I keep seeing over and over. Like it feels like they are manipulating us because you can sense that the left mind has an agenda. You know,
Yes.
it's not necessarily malevolent, but it's just they have an agenda. And we don't. At the minute we have an agenda, we are focused on something and we are active and we are strategic and we are not right anymore. And the other side of that is like when a left mind, they don't understand what we are talking about or the way we are working. There's always a side that you're messing with me, right? You must be messing with me because there's no way you're doing that and you don't know that it's going to have that effect and that effect and that effect. And we're like,
those are like you're like quoting me. Did you follow me around this morning? We literally had this conversation this morning. I'm like,
oh, it's just incredible. You know, my mom and her partner, they have. He's quite left and she is mostly right. And they have this conversation, you know, because she's doing stuff and she's not even realizing what she's doing because she's not thinking it through because she's not supposed to. And he's absolutely certain that she is because for him, he's like her. She's like him, sorry. And at the same time, when he starts to explain what goes on in his mind, sometimes she has those reflexes like, you bad, you're naughty, I don't like the way you're thinking, you know, and you're dishonest, and that's a big battle between the right and the left, and I'm fascinated by it, and it's just so different. Even just we don't even know what we are conceptualizing about when we are right minds, like all the thinking that is going on, like when we think we know, again, we're not the right. It's very tricky to be right and to have a lot of rightness in this world because of that, and just they know what they are thinking about, and so it's so weird, and it's just one of my favorite person in the world. She has the opposite variable from mine, and it's so fascinating. It's the projector I was talking about, the Splenic one, and so we have so many like similarities and so many differences, and it's absolutely amazing to watch. It's just, like I said, you know, I've said it that a few times, variable is one of my favorite things. So practical and so interesting. And okay, so
we've done the red.
We've done the body, we've done the mind. So bottom left and top right. And I'd say it's easier to go then to the view. And again, very similar.
Bottom right.
It's the bottom right.
Okay.
The other part of the rave psychology. So the mind and the view. And the view is how we take in information. And so not how we think it, but how we take it in, like when it comes to new information. And then again, the little scalpel is very, very useful for the left views because the left views take things, details, one by one after the other. And it's very strategic in the way it's doing it. Like I have a left view, I can sense it sort of, you know, because I have so much rightness. It's my only left bit. And so I can sense that there's something going on that I'm absolutely not aware of consciously because I have so much rightness. I cannot. But there's something to, like my view, even the way I physically see things. There's some kind of strategy that is involved. Like so that's my only left variable. And when Ra was discussing it, he was describing the way I'm learning the best by saying this. So I'm supposed to only be present and in the moment so I can take everything in. But to do so, I'm going to have to let my focus wander and just keep moving around. And that's exactly how I'm doing it all the time. Like even when I'm talking to you, and then I watch this in my room and this in my room and this, and it doesn't even have any link with what we are talking about. You know, it's just how the left view is wandering around in the world and needs to do that. I'm thinking sometimes about how we try to force people to look into the eyes of each other. And it's so bad for both the right and the left, because the left is needing to move around, and the right is not. It's not supposed to be focusing on anything. So it's such nonsense that we think that it's more polite and more normal to just watch people in the eyes. That's just crazy. We don't take in and we don't conceptualize well when we are doing that, because the right view on the opposite end of that binary, well, the right view is again peripheral, so it doesn't know what they are seeing. It's not strategic at all. It's taking everything in periphery of something. So there's all those colors that are giving subjects for the view, and
I think I have a good analogy for describing what the peripheral is like, because I am right. I have a right view also, and I had the hardest time learning to drive a speedboat when as an adult, because what I wanted to do was focus on, like a left brain person, focus on each of the different drivers and what they're doing, so that I could try to make sure I don't get hit by another driver. And it was stressing me out. Oh, my shoulders, just like you said, we're going up. This is also in the body, right? It's the lower of the two lower ones are all felt in the body. So my shoulders were up in my ears, and my dad's like, whoa, you need to just relax. And I'm like, I can't relax. There's too many people moving and I can't focus on them all at once. And he said, why don't you just pick a spot on the other side of the lake and drive towards it? And then if anything comes in your peripheral that looks like it might cross over your path, you can steer around it. And all of a sudden, the whole playing field was completely clear, because I wasn't focused on any one thing. I was focused kind of off in the distance. I couldn't even really see all the way up to the other end of the lake, but I knew approximately where I wanted to go. And then I could use my peripheral to pay attention to the variables very easily. It's like driving a car then. It was so easy. And I was like, wow, thank you. He must be, maybe he's right brained, right variable.
He has some rightness somewhere,
sure. But it was great advice. And so, yeah, so you're saying when a child is learning, they may need to focus on something that's just beyond what they can conceptualize in order to relax and let that information, because their job is to open up and receive whatever's coming into their peripheral, rather than focusing on just math right now or just whatever you're trying to get them to concentrate on. That they may need a little more of I'm trying to just because I've got school on my mind. We just got done doing school for the day. So I wonder, I have one boy that's got this also. He definitely doesn't like to make eye contact when you're teaching him something. And I have said, look at me, I'm trying to explain something to you. And I'll stop doing that now that I've learned that that's actually making it harder for him to concentrate, because now he's looking at me. He's not listening to my words probably anymore because he's focused on my face, probably.
Exactly.
I have no idea what she's saying. She told me to stare at her face.
We don't even need anything special to just focus on. Like, I can focus on there's some insects in the room, there's a crack in the wall, there's a color that is suddenly just taking my focus away. Like, that's just like the focus is going to be grabbed anyway, even if there is no link whatsoever with whatever is happening. But yeah, forcing the focus on something, like if I'm forcing my focus on something, or forcing it to stay on something, then I just don't listen. It just I probably will see a lot about, like you were saying, like I would see a lot about your face and a lot about your eyes. But I would not being able to really take that much in from what you're talking to me about. And it's just
That's awesome.
It changes so much the way we are talking about those things, because we all have, like all the things about being such and such learner or kinesthetic and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's a mix between wanting to mentalize stuff that are not mentalized, and it's supposed to be much more differentiated than that. And it's just like, it's going to be wrong for 50% of the people usually, because usually it's sometimes more, because usually it's all about the left, and it's just not working. And that's part of why variable is so cool to have some kind of knowledge about. And and then we have the top left, right? And the top left is the brain, and the top left is the storage.
differentiate for me between the top right and the top left before I want you to say, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm like, okay, what's the difference between the mind and the brain? Because I think I know what you mean, but I'm just making sure the listeners those two things might sound the same to them. So you were talking about the mind, the top right is the mind, and you're talking about that's kind of more of the processes that you are aware of, like our conscious mind. Is that
well? I'm not aware of whatever is happening in mind because I have a right mind, but it's all about conceptualization. That's what the mind is about. So it's the thinking and the putting things together that the body and the view are grabbing from the environment. So the left body is grabbing things by moving around and doing this thing. The right body is grabbing things just by being there and watching what's going around them. And the way they are doing this is through the view. And the view is either one detail after the next if they are left, and just everything in, and they don't even know what they are seeing. And I can sense that, like my dear friend, she has a right view, or you have a right view. I can sense that sometimes you say things and you don't know what you saw. Like the way you're talking about, say, she doesn't know what she's saying right now, but it's so cool. and then me, with my little scalpel, I can take things in and say, hey, didn't you know that you saw that? And usually my friend is like, what? No, I didn't know I was saying that. That's so cool. And that's kind of the ping pong that
is what I'm talking about yet. Yeah. But I'm saying it anyway.
Complementary. Such a cool thing. And so the brain is where we store the information.
Okay.
And
more about how we're recalling information, like at a later point, like our storage. I mean, I think of storage like on a computer, like this is where we need access to recall facts or recall a story or a narrative of some sort, or just process.
Everything we recall is in the brain.
Okay. That's the difference between that and the mind. It's not so much the concept, it's now the process, or the back end memory.
It's the pantry for the mind.
Sure.
The mind cannot function without the brain, but the brain cannot function either without the mind because nothing is getting out. And the difference between the left brain and the right brain, well, there's a few of them. First of all, the left brains eat much more than the right brain. That's where the determination is.
Mm-hmm.
And they need much more. You guys need much more food than we do. And you also need food more at specific times during the day than we do. Like the right brains, we tend to have little snacks more than meals, and it's making a big difference. And you shouldn't wait until you're hungry to eat. You have that kind of rhythm that is yours, and that's your rhythm, and you should honor that, because being hungry is really not good for you. Like, it's really starving you very, very, very quickly. And a lot of left brains are very cranky when they don't eat. It's very funny to watch for me. And for me, I cannot eat for hours and hours and hours and have no problems with that. And being hungry is not a problem at all. But if I overeat, then Ra used to talk about obese brains, and it's a specialty of the right brain. We can all have them, but it's a specialty of the right brain to be obese brain, because it's just like we take in way too much energy and fuel for the lack of activity we don't have, because the right brain doesn't do well with overstimulation at all. Like when you were talking about having the podcast and the thing and it's just, if I'm doing that, I'm getting crazy. And if I'm too stimulated right before I sleep, it's awful for me to get to sleep. It can take me hours. But my friend who has all that leftness, like if she doesn't have something to focus on, she cannot sleep. And it's just, that's again, it's kind of the difference we can see between the left and the right, because it's going to be not physical activity, but mental activity and stimulation. That's the difference between the top left arrow and the bottom left arrow, between the body and between the brain. It's the kind of stimulation we're going to have. And again, the right brain is an ocean brain. We take everything in, and there's so much stuff in there, and we never know until someone goes at the well and say, "Hey, do you have that? Hey, do you know how to do that?" And then we take everything and we put everything together, especially with my right mind. So it's just like it's really like it's having an ocean, and when someone is coming with the questions, or someone give me some kind of stimulation, some kind of direction, it's like things come at the surface of the ocean. And they usually don't come alone. It's not one bit after another. It's like a lot of stuff put together. That's why sometimes when I'm talking, I can be very dense in the way I'm talking, because I'm taking everything in together and I'm giving it to you, and it's too much.
Yeah, it is. I do find that it's a lot of information. It's got a lot of depth to it, but I find it fascinating. So, but that's probably because I'm just sitting here in my rightness, just taking it all in. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Wow. I just saw the little toe of the animal, and now I can see the whole body. And that's just, yeah, that's going with your analogy. I kind
Yeah.
of envisioned like this big, I don't know. Maybe it's more like a whale. Maybe it's just a fin, not a toe. But like I've just got the tail of this big humpback whale. But you're like, no, there's a whole whale under here. Like that's all you can see, maybe. But there's a whole big. It's like as big as a bus. Let me show you. It's great.
Exactly. And your brain, on the opposite, the storage, it's more like a library, like everything is tidied and sorted out together, and you know where things are. I'm not sure you do know that much because of your right mind, but it's way tidier than what I have around. And me, it's crazy over there. I don't know how it would look, but it would look as if objects weren't object anymore, and they were all flowy and liquidy, and having those interconnection between each other and stuff like this. And it's, again, you take things in one by one, even through the way your view is taking everything in, but your brain is stopping and say, whoa, just a minute, just taking in one by one, and so I can put the right piece of information in the right folder, and so it's very different from the way mine is doing it, because mine is like taking all those many details, and then it's just dump them in my ocean.
just put them in the closet, close the door, it's all in there.
Exactly. And then it depends who is going to come to the door and ask and knock and ask for something specific, and use the resource I am. And yeah. And we talked. Did I?
You did. You all
Yeah.
of them. So so let's go. If we can take this big, humpback whale, and if we can go zoom back to the original question, which is all four quad right child. If you were just to speak for a second to someone, how could a parent support someone that has all four quadrants facing right? And then I would like to ask the same question about all four facing left, because again, they're pretty rare. So I just want to make sure we cover those would be the hardest, I think, for someone to figure out on the internet by themselves. So, so that's why let's see if we can help them a bit.
Okay, so for a quad right, I would say don't rush them. Don't rush them. Don't make them active. Don't ask why they are doing stuff they don't know. So they're basically gonna lie, even if they don't know they're gonna lie, and they're gonna be not self, and that's just too bad. It's
Yes.
just like, like when I'm seeing quad rights, I'm seeing kind of like those oracles, that were just waiting for people to come to them and ask them for stuff, and ask them what they see and what they know. And for me, that's the quad right by excellence. It's just like, let them be. They're gonna be very still. They're gonna be much more quiet and calm than the other kids, and they're going to love to watch stuff. Like, I have babies around me, and I can see who's a little right being and a little left being, because we have those little Buddhas, and they don't seem to learn as quickly, but that's not true. Like, just they taking everything in, and when it's time, then they they baffled us by how great they are and how much they took in. And in the opposite, we have those kind of little searchers and seekers and discoverers, and they're always moving and they're always doing stuff, and they're it's very funny for me to watch them, like they're leaking stuff and they're trying to put things in the things, and they're pushing stuff, and just and it's like, what are you doing? And it's so cute, to see them in tiny babies, because the way we hurt those children is by forcing their focus.